moving that way.
SCC graduate.
Yeah.
Pan Am, they pretty much started.
Wait a minute, don't tell them like I just fell off the tamale truck. I first got a law degree in Mexico.
Yes.
And I was a practicing attorney there for quite a number of years. Back in the mid-'80s, I left the United States. I went into self-proclaimed exile, and I lived in Mexico for the next decade and a half. When I got a law degree, I worked in a federal courthouse while I was doing my internship, and that stretched into about 3 or 4 years. And then I litigated for a while, and my main client was my dad, trying to get him out of jail, but he just an unruly client, would never listen, you know. Still have shootouts even while in prison. I mean, that always bears bad, right, for the media and for the judge and stuff. But yeah, after that, I bummed around. I started teaching English at the Tec de Monterrey. Kind of just needed something to do and a place to lay low, and I figured, who's going to look for me in a school, right? Yeah. But strangely enough, I was found there. Apparently, other drug dealers send their kids to college too, so my dad wasn't the only one. And so I ran into a lot of old friends, and I didn't even know that there was a such thing as an English major. I came back to the States after Salinas de Gortari left office in Mexico, and the economy collapsed, right? He was inflating the peso, and there wasn't really any money in the coffers left, so the economy collapsed. My mortgage went up 185%. People were just losing their houses left and right. Everybody was boarding up. And before they left the neighborhood, I was one of the last houses to board up in the neighborhood. Everybody would come by my house especially and tell me what a fool I was for sticking around. Like, you speak English, you have papers, what the hell are you doing here? And finally I broke down and came back up here at the assistance of my present wife too, which we weren't married at the time. It was her plan all along. And just get him here to the border and I'll feed him and then he'll never leave, right? Just like a feral cat. And that's what ended up happening, right? I came back up here. All I wanted to do was get a master's degree in English, actually in ESL, so I could go back down to Mexico and continue teaching English as a second language. And they wouldn't let me come and take the master's with my law degree. They kind of laughed and they said, you need to, we'll accept you as an entering freshman, right? And well, I had I don't know, I think I was working the shady side of the street back in those years, and I had a little bit of money for tuition, and I enrolled just to take a few classes, right? I had no idea what financial aid was. I had no idea what GPA was. I had, nothing like that, because I was in school at a time in America where Mexicans didn't get that type of counseling. If you were a student, it didn't matter. Even down here in the valley, that's what I found most remarkable. Even down here in the valley, there was real deep segregation, and there was, because I only did my last year of high school down here at PSJA. But I remember walking through the halls and it being silent, right? And it took me a couple of months to figure it out. It was, well, they hit you if you speak Spanish, right? Even in the halls, even during lunch. So pretty much everybody kind of kept quiet, until it was after school and stuff like that. And well, like I said, they just didn't give you any kind of counseling like that. If you went into the counselor's office and asked them about the ACTs or the ACTs or anything like that, they would tell you stuff like, well, you should be more interested in the vocational schools. Wouldn't you like to drive a big truck? A big truck, right? How about plumbing? And I said, oh yeah, I'd love to have shut up to my eyebrows every day. So I left, and my dad was doing well in Mexico. He had plenty of connections, and his friends kept on telling him, come to Mexico and study law so you can get us out of trouble. Come to Mexico and study law so you can get us out of trouble. I had no idea how prophetic those words would be, because that's what I ended up doing. I studied law, and I started working at a federal courthouse. And man, oh man, oh man, oh man, was I on the wrong side of law and order before that. That's where the money's at, working on the legal side. Shoot, people couldn't wait to give me money when I was working at the courthouse. But anyway, I was working there for a while. Then unfortunately, my dad's house of cards came tumbling down, and he went to jail. and then I spent the rest of my time trying to get him out of jail, which he'd gotten too big and too notorious, and like I said, too unruly to be able to get out without causing any kind of scandal. At the end, he ended up getting the minimum sentence allowed, and with the time that he had already spent in there, it was time served, and he got out. He did spend about 3 years, 10 months, which might not sound like much, but need I remind you, a Mexican jail, which I would much prefer to spend time in Mexico than I would here in the United States, because in Mexico you can have your family with you, you can set up shop, you can pretty much the same things that you can do here in American jails, because you can traffic in drugs and you can traffic in cell phones, and here in American jails, you just can't have women with you. And I prefer, if I'm gonna be locked up, to at least be around women. All right, so 1,000 times Mexican jail. So I try to limit my illegal activity to Mexico, or crimes that will be extradition to Mexico. Those, right?